Alright, hey everyone, welcome back to the Z channel, Z-Man here. And so today's topic is going to be getting back into a lot of the martial arts aspect of this channel. And so what I wanted to share today was my Kuntao Silat experience and how I got started in Kuntao Silat. So first of all, Kuntao Silat, it's a style of combat that comes from the Indonesian and Philippine islands, and the Kuntao part actually came from, I believe it was China, and then later on Taiwan, and together the same practitioners brought the art over to Indonesia and the Philippines, and it just kind of culturally mixed together with Silat. And so Kuntao Silat, there's an actual bleed over. If you've taken separate Kuntao and then Silat by itself, there's actually a bleed over. But Kuntao Silat together, in my opinion, is it's just a very punishing art. It's very geared towards combat. I believe it's actually outlawed in Indonesia and other places in the area to train it unless you're in the military or the police. And so the reason why I got into it was in 2007. If you've been following my channel for a while, I started having these dreams that something bad was going to happen in the world, and so I went down to the Denver Public Library and I wanted to learn, survivalism. I wanted to learn martial arts. I wanted to learn old country remedies for hunting, fishing, trapping, tanning hides, making your own butter, kind of stuff like that, like just weird homestead type remedies that are kind of like long forgotten because we're so modernized these days. And so while I was at the library in Denver, there was this VHS tape that was by a guy named Bob Orlando, who I believe still practices his training out of Lakewood, Colorado, which is not very far from the Denver area. But anyway, I checked out the VHS and I probably watched that thing a couple hundred times. I remember rechecking it out to the point where the library told me I couldn't check it out anymore. I had to wait a week and then recheck it out again. And that's pretty much what I did for the entire year of 2007. Was I kept checking, that book out. I mean that VHS out and other books. And there was other stuff that I studied too. I was getting into Aikido. I was getting into a lot of different Japanese type arts, but the Kuntao Silat that Bob Orlando taught was very interesting. However, I wasn't able to actually put together what I was learning until after I was trained by Chuck Pittman in Kung Fu Sansu. And Sansu really gave me the base that I've explained already. It gave me the base to be able to build upon and add these other martial arts into the arsenal of what I know about martial arts and self-defense and things like that, and then the different lethal to non-lethal or non-lethal to lethal concepts involving each art. And so today I wanted to share some of the DVDs that I got after I had completed Kung Fu Sansu training with Chuck. I branched off, I started doing my own thing, and so one of the first ones that I got, I wanted to learn more about Silat, and this was the most available ready thing that I was able to get, and it's called Pencak Silat. Okay, and this is by Pendacker Master William Sanders. Okay, and William Sanders was a really great teacher. All right, so during the 80s, Panther Productions, if you can see up the top here, Panther Productions came out with this idea to videotape all of the major martial arts and some of the best practitioners during that time and era, during the 80s and early 90s. And William Sanders was one of the people that was recognized, at least over in the West, as a pendacker or an instructor that could teach Pencak Silat. And so I picked this up and I started learning it, and I gotta say it was very fluid as far as the beginning, and then later on it started getting a little bit more difficult. And a lot of it was just, I think it was not necessarily his teaching style, but it was more his it was I think it was difficult for him to kind of slow down what he wanted to say half the time. But he did teach everything in full. He did teach everything, the way it should be taught. But I think that there's a little bit more of the practicality side involved, because when you're training techniques, you always have the person that's like, here's the knife, or here's the punch, or whatever the case is. And so it's easy to defend against things when you know that it's coming. But later on, when we got into the actual advanced self-defense stuff, which was disc 11 and disc 12, that's when for me it really started putting everything together as far as unscripted, like sparring. But when they were sparring, they were doing it into a point of, like, you couldn't tell what the other guy was going to do. And because of the dangerousness of Pencak Silat, you have to really train slow. You can't just go full bore with your training partner, because you will injure them, kill them, cripple them, things like that. And it's no joke. I mean, people are like, "Oh, you're full of crap." No. Trust me on this. Silat is a combat-oriented martial art. It is basically how to tear, break bones, rip flesh, take people out, incapacitate them in any way that you possibly can. And that's what this series teaches, okay? So William Sanders was a really great teacher. I highly recommend, if you can get this one, to get it. It was pretty inexpensive. I got it through martialartsdvdoutlet.com. And I know Nancy Holden from over the last, good God, it's been like 6, almost 7 years that I've been getting training series from her. And a lot of what I have in my libraries from her, and then also from Budo International and BudoVideos.com. So BudoInternational.com, BudoVideos.com, and then MartialArtsDVDOutlet.com. All three of those are going to have really great martial arts. So anyway, getting back into this, later on I was able to actually find, so this was the DVD version of the VHS that I got in Denver with Bob Orlando. So this is the Combat Secrets of Silat and Kuntao, and it's by Bob Orlando. Okay, and as you can see in this, it's showing him pretty much wrecking somebody. And in a lot of what we learned, or what I learned in this instructional DVD, he has a whole series. In the series that I have, I'm unable to locate the rest of the series, but he has a full series where he teaches the entire series of Kuntao Silat, and there's a bleed over in between both, and you actually kind of see the combination of the two. You see where Silat separates and Kuntao separates, and then you see where they bleed over and they become Kuntao Silat. So for me, that was really big, finding this DVD, and I got it through Paladine Press, I believe. Yeah, Paladine Press, which is no longer in business. They actually shut down, I believe, a year ago. And if you can find any of the Paladine Press items, I suggest that you get them and hold on to them. There's a lot of really great information from the people that put time, money, and effort into bringing out material. And so, I got to give these guys credit for what they did. But Bob Orlando, he's definitely a badass. He took Kuntao Silat very serious, and I learned a lot from him. And after Chuck taught me the foundation martial art in Kung Fu Sansu, picking up something like this, or Pencak Silat, was extremely easy to just add to the arsenal. And there's a lot of deadly skills in here. Whether you're open hand, you're with the knife, the Karambit with sticks, with the stick and the knife combination, things like that. And then when I got into Filipino Eskrima, it kind of just kept flourishing from there. And so another one that I got into, and this one's by Robert Torres, Okay, so this is also the Indonesian and Filipino martial arts put together. Kalasag, Kuntao Silat, and Robert Torres. He basically puts together the Indonesian and the Philippines combination. He was trained at both locations, and he basically shows you how Kuntao is effective in the combination with Silat. And like I said, there's a bleed over, but he definitely breaks it down. And this is a 4-part series, and it was really easy to learn. There's a lot of really dangerous things to do in this series, so if you do practice with this, make sure that you go very slow and be very thoughtful and mindful of what you're doing, because you're learning how to break limbs and other stuff, which you do the same thing in these DVDs as well, but it definitely gets into it in this one. And so I just want everyone to be careful with that. And then one thing that I wanted to add on to this was a lot of people have heard of Emerson. Ernest Emerson is a professional security. Basically he's been doing he's got well, at this point in time I was around 30 years. I think he's in the 40-year mark now. But he's done courses and seminars all over the globe, and he is a security professional. He definitely taught me a different style of Karambit use. He taught me how to use the Karambit, especially the pocket folding Karambits, in a different type of light. And so knife boxing is what he basically teaches in this series, and it's called the Complete Combat Karambit. You can see this or not. The Complete Combat Karambit, Ernest Emerson Combat Systems. Okay, and so this one, it goes through a four level training. They have the warm-ups, the basic fundamentals, the techniques, advanced skills, and then they get deeper into knife boxing. And so you kind of learn a spread of non-lethal to lethal. And it's one of those things, as a practitioner of martial arts, it's up to you, what you do, because automatically knowing martial arts, you're already kind of premeditated on what you're doing. And so you have to be really careful in any kind of self-defense situation, how you handle yourself, even in defending yourself, because I'll give an example with a gun real quick. Okay, now they're gonna say, well, how does a gun have to do with hand-to-hand combat? Well, I'll explain. So in marksmanship, especially if you're an armed security guard or a police officer, things like that, let's say that you get into a self-defense situation and a robber or whoever pulls a gun on you, and they're going to shoot you, and you get your draw out and you shoot them. Okay, later on in court, what could happen is they could say, well, your marksmanship is really good, you scored on your state field test. Let's say that you got a 95% or even 100% accuracy on the target that you're shooting at for the state test, which, if anyone's ever taken the state test, especially in Arizona, it's not that it's hard to pass, and it's not that it's easy to pass, but if you practice, there's no reason why you can't get 100%. Does that make sense? So in this case, the lawyer of the defendant, or the person that you shot, let's say that you killed them or whatever, and the family's trying to sue you for civil lawsuit. They're going to say, well, you're a marksman and you had 100% accuracy. Why didn't you just shoot my client in the leg? Why didn't you shoot him in the arm? Why didn't you shoot him in the hand? Why'd you have to shoot him in the chest or the face or whatever, wherever the bullet landed? And so it's kind of the same thing with martial arts. They're going to say, well, why'd you have to break his arm? Why'd you have to break his knee? Why'd you have to snap his neck, etc.? Why couldn't you just taken him on the ground and done some kind of jiu-jitsu move or whatever the case, and submitted them that way? And so that's kind of the premeditation part that martial arts makes you. You actually become a gun. Once you're trained in martial arts, you become a gun, and you need to realize that. It's when they say, you're a lethal weapon, and I'm not talking about registering yourself as a lethal weapon. I'm talking about you have to realize that you have a power over certain people now that don't know anything about training. And if they haven't been trained in martial arts and they give you the basic haymaker or crappy weak punch, and you just completely destroy them, it's gonna look bad on you in court. And so the best rule of thumb is, if you were going to do something wrong or something that's going to be ending up in court, what would a jury full of soccer moms, especially today's soccer moms, and I'll leave it at that, how would they judge you based on your actions? Okay, so you have to be careful about what you do and how you do things, before, during, and after altercations. But I wanted to just share the Silat journey, and when I find the other Bob Orlando series, I'll definitely get back into that. But Bob Orlando, Ernest Emerson, Robert Torres, and William Sanders. Okay, I recommend all 4 of these guys. I've learned a great deal about martial arts and combat from them, and all I can simply say is that what they've taught me has made me a better martial artist, and I've got skills that I'll never lose and that I could use in any kind of a situation. And learning from 4 different teachers, it really gives you a broad spectrum of training. And so I recommend, get what you can and learn based on what you're able to do. Like this took years to get. This didn't happen overnight. You know what I mean? So think about that before you get into this stuff. Just start building your collection slowly, and take it month by month, year by year even, and just train and learn, and just make sure that you stay on top of your training and brush up on your tactics every once in a while. Okay. So anyway, this is the Z-Man. This was the Kuntao Silat series, and I thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I got more videos coming up soon. Thanks for watching.